In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to build a simple but highly productive Notion dashboard from scratch. So here is the dashboard that we're going to be building today. So it features a to-do list, a habit tracker, a projects and goals section, as well as links to your most important and most used Notion pages, and a useful weather widget. I've also set up these handy quick action buttons as well. Now, I think that a powerful Notion dashboard should have three main components. The first component is navigation. So a good dashboard should make it easy to navigate to all of your most used Notion pages. So that's what these links here are for. The second component is easy access to your most used databases. So for most of us, our to-do list or habit tracker are the most used databases. So I think it's important to be able to access them right from the dashboard. And the third component is quick action buttons. So I should be able to easily record ideas and notes that pop into my head with a single click rather than having to search around for the right page or database. So now I'm going to show you how to build this entire dashboard from scratch. And if you're finding this video useful so far, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel as I post new Notion tutorials every single week. So I'm starting off with a brand new page, and I've simply just named this page dashboard, and that's all I've done so far. Let's start by adding an emoji. So if you just hover up here, you'll see this add icon button. So let's click on that and add an emoji. The one that I'm going to go with is the house emoji. Let's also add a cover photo. So I'm now going to click add cover, and that's just going to add one at random. Let's then click change cover to pick our own. So you can pick from one of Notion's pre-added templates. You can upload your own. You can paste in a link to an image you found on the internet, or you can use Unsplash, which is what I'm going to use. So this is a free stock photo library. So on the example, I actually just used an image of a plant. I think it was this one. So I'm just going to click on that and upload that as the photo, as you can see. If you want to rearrange it, you can click on reposition. So let's just move it down a little bit like that. So this is what we currently have. At this point, I am going to make the page full width. So right now, if you start typing, all of the text is just going to be squished together in the middle. But I actually want to be able to use all of the space on the page. So I'm just going to click on the three dots here in the corner, and we're going to toggle on the full width option, and that's just going to make the page wider so that we can make use of the entire space. So let's just delete this. So we're going to start by creating the databases for the to-do list, the habit tracker, and the goals and projects database. Now, if you already have databases set up in Notion for, say, a to-do list or a habit tracker, feel free to just skip ahead and just paste in what you already have onto this page. But for anyone that doesn't have a to-do list or a habit tracker, I'm going to show you how you can set that up. So let's start with the to-do list. So the first thing we're going to do is add a new database. So I'm going to type in /database, and we're going to select this database inline option, and that's going to add this database. So I'm just going to name this database to-do list, and we're going to hide the database title. So I'm going to click on these three dots here and select hide database title. That's just going to make this look a little bit cleaner. And we also want to delete this default tags property as we don't need it for this database. So I'm going to click on here, and we're just going to select delete property and delete. So I'm going to start by just adding a few example tasks in here so that we have something to work with. Now, the first property that we want to add to this table is going to be a date property so that we can set a due date for each of these tasks. So we're going to click on the plus symbol here, and we're going to add a date property. So I'm going to select that one. Now this one I'm just going to call due for due date, and we're going to leave all the settings as they are. And you can now come on here, click this box, and then select the date. So let's just put all of these as today's date for now. Next, I want to be able to select the priority for each of the tasks. So we're going to add a select property to do that. So we're going to click on the plus symbol here. I'm going to type in select, and we're going to go with this one here. And I'm going to call this one priority. And then down here, you want to click on this add an option button, and this is where we can add some options to select from. So in this case, for the priority, I think we're just going to go with high, medium, and low. So I'm going to type in the word high, hit enter, and that's going to be added as an option. Let's also do medium and low. I'm also just going to color code these as well. So if you click on here, you can change the color. So let's go with red for high, yellow for medium, and green for low. So this is now what it would look like. So now if I click on the box here next to this one, I can select the priority. So let's put this one as high, and I'll just select some options for the other ones. Now we also just want to add one more property. I want to add a checkbox so that I can check off tasks once they're complete. So we're going to click on here once again, type in checkbox and select this one, and let's just call it done like that. So I can simply check this off once the task is complete. Just before we jump back to the tutorial, I want to let you know about my second brain template. This powerful productivity system is the best way to organize your tasks, notes, projects, and goals, and is based on productivity methods that actually work. Hundreds of people have already purchased the template and are now more productive than ever, It also has tons of 5-star reviews from people that have used it. I'll leave a link in the description box below if you're interested. That's all, back to the tutorial. Now just to make this look a little bit more aesthetic, I also want to add an icon for each of the tasks. So we actually can add a default icon so that the same icon is added every single time, so I don't have to waste time picking an icon for each task. So to add a default icon, you want to click on this little downward arrow here, and we're going to click on new template. That's going to bring up this page, and all we're going to do on here is just simply add the icon that we want to be added for every single task. So if we hover up here and click add icon, we can then choose from the emoji library or the icons library by Notion. So this is the one that I'm going to choose, this checkmark icon here. So that's all we're going to do. You want to leave everything else blank, and we're just going to hit back. Once again, you want to click on that downward arrow, and here is the template that we set up with the icon. So you just want to click on the 3 dots next to it and set it as default, and you want to select for all views in our to-do list. Now what that's going to do is every time that I add something new like this, I'll just type in the name of the task, and when I hit enter, as you can see, the icon has been added by default. So now every time I add a new task, the icon will be added. I do just need to add it for these ones that we already put into the system. So I'm just going to highlight all of these like this, click on the 6 dots, and we can select icons to bulk add it for all of those that we'd already added. So again, we're going to go with the check mark. So now I just want to change the way that this looks. So firstly, I want to have a view which just shows today's tasks. So what we're going to do is firstly click on here to rename this tab, and let's just call this tab today. And I'm also going to change the icon to a little calendar icon like this. Now we also need to add a filter so that we only see today's tasks. So I'm going to click on this little filter icon here, and we're going to filter based on the due date. And I want to change this to this day, which basically just means today. So it's only going to bring up tasks that have a due date of today. Now I also want to filter out any tasks that have been complete so that we can only see outstanding tasks. So what we're going to do is click on add filter, and we're now going to add a filter based on the done checkbox, and we only want to see tasks where the done checkbox is unchecked. So if it's checked, it will disappear like this. Now I'm also going to change the layout to a list view just because I think that looks a little bit nicer for a to-do list. So what we can do is click on these 3 dots here, select layout, and we're going to change it to a list, which will look like this. And I also want to show a few more properties on the table. So if I click back, we also want to click on properties. So currently it's showing the name and the due date, but I also want to see the priority and the done checkbox as well, so that I can check it off from the list. Now, as this is the today tab, I don't actually need to see the due date because I already added a filter to only show tasks that are due today. So I'm going to unselect that. So it will just show the name of the task, the priority, and then the checkbox, which looks like this. Now, one other thing that I want to do is I actually want the tasks to be sorted based on the priority. So I want the highest priority tasks to be at the top of the list, the medium tasks, and then the low tasks at the bottom. So I can just work my way through the list throughout the day. So what we're going to do is click on this button, which is for a sort, and we're going to sort the list based on our priority level. Now, it's automatically going to sort it ascending, but as I can see here, that's going from low to high. So I'm going to switch this to descending so that it goes from high to low. So this sort is based on the order of the options within the list. So if you inputted them in the wrong order, then it may not show correctly. I've got mine low, medium, high in the list. So that's why I'm sorting it descending. So that is our today tab. I also want another tab that's just going to show all of my upcoming tasks. So what we're going to do is click on this tab and duplicate it. And let's firstly just change the name of this tab to all tasks. And you can also change this icon if you want as well. Let's just go with an arrow like that. Now, the first thing I want to do is check the filters. So as I just duplicated the today tab, it also duplicates the filters. So I need to delete this due today filter. So we're going to click on here and simply just delete that filter. And I also want to be able to see the due date on here because now we're not filtering based on the due date. So I actually want to see the date for the tasks. So we're going to click on here, select properties, and I'm going to add the due property onto the list. And let's show the due date just before the checkbox, and that will look like this. Another thing I want to do is change the sort on here. So as you can see, these aren't being sorted based on the date. They're a little bit jumbled together. So if we click on our sort, remember we added that sort depending on the priority. So they are being sorted based on priority, but I actually would rather they be sorted based on due date for this view. So we're going to add a sort, and it's going to be by our due date, and we're going to leave it as ascending. So I'm just going to grab that and move it to the top. Now with sorts, you can actually add a primary and a secondary sort. So now that I've added this one at the top, it's going to firstly sort the tasks based on the due date. So as you can see, it's now being sorted properly based on the due date. But I'm leaving this priority descending as the secondary sort, so that if you have any items on the same day, like all of these that are showing as June 8th, it's then going to sort those based on the priority. Okay, so that is the to-do list all set up. I'm now going to place it inside of a callout block, which is going to add a border around it. So what we're going to do is just up here, I'm going to type in /callout and select this block. And then I'm just going to grab this database and place it inside the block like this. Now, firstly, I want to change the color of the block. So I can click on the 6 dots here and change the color. And I'm actually just going to change it to the default background, which just makes it white with a gray outline. And you can also change the icon here as well. So I'm going to choose this check mark here, and we're going to name this block to do like this, and I'm also just going to highlight that and just bold it. And let's also just add a separator in between. So if you just hit enter and type in 3 dashes in a row, it's going to add a separator like this. So this is now what our to-do list looks like. Okay, so that is our to-do list all set up. Next, we're going to add the goals and projects database. So I'm going to start by adding that just underneath. So the first thing we're going to do is add another database. So /database, and we're going to select database inline. And I'm just going to call this one goals and projects. Similarly to the to-do list, we're going to click on here to hide the database title, and we're also going to delete this tags property as well. So I'm going to start by just adding a few example goals or projects into the first column here. Now for the goals and projects, I think it'd be nice to add a unique icon for each one that relates to the goal or the project. So to add an icon, you can click on the 6 dots next to it, select icons. So this one is for the London Marathon. So I'm going to still go with Notion's icon library. Maybe let's look for someone running like this. So that is the icon for that goal, and I'm just going to do the same for the other two. Now the first property that we're going to add is going to be a date property, so that we can select a deadline for the project or goal. So I'm going to click on here, type in date, and we're going to select this date option here, and I'm going to name this one deadline, and that's all we're going to do. I can now come here and select a deadline for each goal. So let's put this one as the end of July and so on. Then I also want to add a checkbox so that we can check these off once they're complete. So again, click on here, type in checkbox, and we're just going to call this one done so that I can check it off when it's complete. Now the final property that I want to add is I want to be able to select if it's a goal or a project. Now the key difference between the two, I would say, is that a goal is bigger and more longer term, whereas projects will probably feed into your goals. So a project may be something like creating a Notion course, and that will feed into your goal of getting to 10,000 YouTube subscribers. So to be able to select if it's a goal or a project, we're going to add a property on here, and it's going to be a select property, and I'm going to name this one goal/project. And we just need to add 2 options. So one is going to be goal and the other is going to be project. I'm then just going to color code these. So let's make goals green and let's just leave projects as purple. So you can then click on here to select the correct option. So I'm just going to put these 2 as goals and this one as a project. So now that we have all of the properties that we need in this database, let's now make this look a little bit nicer. So firstly, I'm going to turn this into a gallery view so that we can visualize each goal or project. So to do that, we're going to click on the 3 dots here and we're going to select layout, and we're going to change it to a gallery view. And you want to make sure the card size here is set to medium. I also want to change the card preview. So it's currently set to page content, but we actually want to change it to page cover so that we can add a cover photo for each of our goals or projects. Now to actually add the cover photo, you can click on the goal or project, and if you hover up here you can add a cover photo. So let's click change cover, and again I'm going to use Unsplash to choose a stock image, but if you want to upload an image or paste in a link from the internet, then feel free to do that. So this one was the London Marathon, so I'm just going to type in marathon and let's just select this one. And as you can see, that now displays on the card. You can also reposition it if you want to pull it down a little bit. Okay, so now I just want to see a few more details on these cards. So what we're going to do is click on the 3 dots here and select properties. And I think I want to see the deadline for the project or goal on the card. And I also want to see the checkbox so that we can check it off once it's complete. So because I've unhidden these, as you can see, they now display here on the cards. So now I'm going to set up 2 different tabs, one for goals and one for projects. So let's click on this one and rename it. And this one can be the goals tab. And you can also change the icon here as well. Let's just change it to this down arrow. And I'm I'm going to add a filter on here. So click on filter and we're going to filter based on if it's a goal or a project. And this one is going to be for goals. So I'm just going to select goals here so that we filter out any projects. And I also want to filter out any goals that are complete. So we're going to add one more filter and it's going to be for our done checkbox. So we want to only see goals where it is unchecked. Then we're going to duplicate this tab. So I'm going to click on here, select duplicate, and this one is going to be for projects. So all I need to do on here is I simply just need to amend the filter. So it's this goal or project filter. So I'm just going to uncheck goal and instead check project so that we only see projects on this tab. Now, one other thing that I'm going to add to both of these tabs is a sort. So I want to sort based on the deadline, and I'm going to leave it as deadline is ascending so that the goals that are coming up soon will display first. And I'm just going to add that on the projects as well. So that is this database all set up. So similar to what we did with the to-do list, I'm going to place this inside a call out block so that we get this nice border. So I'm going to type in /callout and select the call out block, and I'm just going to drag and drop it inside, and we can just change the icon here. So I'm going to change it to a target icon like this, and let's call this goals and projects. And I'm also just going to highlight that and make it bold. And I'm also going to hit enter and just type in 3 dashes in a row, which is going to give this separator. So this is what it will now look like. Now the final database that we're going to set up is the habit tracker. So I'm going to type in /database and select database inline, and we're going to name this one habit tracker. Again, we're going to hide the title. So I'm going to click the 3 dots and hide the title. And we're also going to delete this tags property as well because we don't need it. Now in the first row here, I'm going to type the word today, because this is going to be today's habits, and we can delete these other 2 rows here because we don't need them. We only need 1 row at the moment. Let's add an icon. So if I click on the 6 dots here, I can select an icon. I think I'm just going to go with a asterisk or star icon like this, and let's just make that a bit smaller. So we're going to start by adding a date property so that I know which date I'm referring to when I'm checking off my habits. So we can click on here, type in date, and we're going to select the date property, and you can just leave the name as date. So for now, let's just select today's date as the date for this property. Next, what I'm going to do is add a checkbox for each of the different habits that I want to track every single day. So we're going to click on here, type in checkbox and select checkbox. And let's say that our first habit is to journal every day. So I'm just going to name this checkbox journal and hit enter, and that has now been added. Let's just make that a bit smaller. And now I'm going to add another checkbox for our next habit. Let's say that you also want to complete your Duolingo lesson every single day. So that is going to be your next habit. So you can add as many of these as you want for each of the different habits you're going to track. So I've just added 4 habits, as you can see. Now I want to create a progress bar so that as I check these off throughout the day, it will show my progress. So what we're going to do is click on the plus symbol and type in formula, and we're going to select this formula property. And as I said, this is going to be our progress bar. So I'm just going to type in progress like this. And now we're going to click on the formula edit button, and this is where we're going to actually write in our formula. So I have made several videos in the past on how to build habit trackers. Some of them are much more advanced than this one. So this is going to be a really simple habit tracker, but if you want something a bit more advanced, then take a look at my channel, as I have a ton of other videos with various different habit trackers. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to convert each of these checkboxes into a number so that we can use it inside our formula. So to do that, you want to type in toNumber like this. It'll then appear here in the functions menu. So you can select it and it will add it in. Now inside these 2 parentheses here, we need to add our first checkbox. So let's do journal first. So you can see all of the properties that you have in your database here. So let's select journal. And as you can see, that's been added inside the toNumber function. Now essentially what this is going to return is if the checkbox of journal is checked, it will return the number 1. However, if it's unchecked, it will return the number 0. So now if we add another one of these 2 numbers, so if I type again toNumber and add the next one, which is Duolingo. So if both of these checkboxes were checked, they would both return the number 1. And if I added that together, we would get 2. So I'd be able to see the total number of checkboxes that are checked. So we're going to keep doing that for all of the different habits. So again, toNumber, and we're going to put in our third one, and just make sure you do this for every single habit that you have added into the table. So I had 4 habits in my database, so I've added 4 of these toNumber functions, and each one has a different habit inside. So if all of these checkboxes were checked, then this would return the number 4 because I have 4 habits, so it would return the number 1 each time. Whereas if I'd only checked off 2 of these, it would return the number 2. So now to work out the percentage of checkboxes that are checked, we need to divide this by the total number of habits that we have. So I'm going to start by by just isolating this entire thing inside parentheses. So I'm going to add one at the end and one at the start so that we don't mess with this formula. Then I'm simply just going to divide the entire thing by 4 because I have 4 different habits. Now if you have 5 habits, you want to divide this by 5. If you have 3 habits, divide it by 3, and so on. And once you've done that, you can simply click done and it's going to display like this. We just need to change the number format here to a %, and we also want this to show as a progress bar, so I'm going to select that as well. So now that I've done that, this is what we have. So as you can see, as I check and uncheck the checkboxes, the progress bar will increase as I go. So now that I have this set up, we're going to make this look a little bit more aesthetic. So we're going to firstly change it to a gallery view. So I'm going to click on the 3 dots here, select layout, and I'm going to change it to a gallery like this. I also want to hide the empty space here, so I'm going to click on card preview and set it to none. Now I want to see all of the habits and the progress bar on the card, so we're going to click back and go on properties. So I'm going to unhide all of these checkboxes by clicking on here so that they all display on the card, and I also want to see the progress bar at the bottom as well. So this is now what that looks like, so I can simply check them off from the card throughout the day. Now I actually only want this to show today's tracker, so I'm going to add a filter so that we only see the tracker for today. So we're going to click on filter here and we're going to filter based on the date, and I'm going to change this to this day so that we only see today's habits. Now I also want this to regenerate automatically for me every single day. So every day I'll come to my dashboard and there'll be a blank version of this just waiting for me, and then throughout the day I can check it off, but then when tomorrow arrives there's a fresh blank one here for me. So what we're going to do is add a recurring template that will duplicate itself every single morning and it will appear here blank. So to do that, we can click on this downward arrow here and add a new template. So I'm just going to make it look like the one that we already did. So I'm just going to name it today, and let's just add that same star or asterisk icon here. So the only other thing we need to do is set the date. So if you click on here, it will actually allow you to select today, which is the date when duplicated. So if I set this template to duplicate itself every single day, it will simply just add in this property the current date of today. So then I'm going to click back, and we now need to set this template to repeat. So if you click on here again, you'll see the template that you've just added. So if you click on the 3 dots, you'll see this repeat option here. So we're going to click on that, and we want to repeat daily. So I want it to repeat every single day. So we're going to leave the options as they are. It's going to repeat every single day, and it's going to generate at midnight. So by the time I look at my dashboard in the morning, it will already have generated. So I'm going to click save. So that's all you need to do. So now what we've done with this setup is we've got a filter here to only show the card for today, and this card is going to duplicate every single day. So you're just going to get a fresh blank one every single morning. So I'm going to change the name of this tab. So I'm simply just going to click on here, and we're going to change the icon firstly to that same arrow that I've used before. And I actually don't want to give this a name. So Notion unfortunately will not let you leave a tab name blank, but if you actually just put in a space, it will then allow you to leave it blank. So it will just look like this. I'm also just going to add a call out block so that we can add that border around this database as well. So / call out, and we're going to select the call out block. And once again, I'm just going to drag this and drop it inside here, and we're going to call this one habit tracker. And again, highlight that and bold it. And I'm also just going to change this icon as well. Let's just change it to this dashed circle. And I'm just going to add that separator here like we did for the others as well. So this is what it looks like. Okay, so now that we have the 3 databases for our dashboard set up, we can now start making the dashboard look really beautiful. So as I said earlier, if you already have a to-do list, goals and projects, or a habit tracker database, or any other databases that you want to appear on your dashboard, then you can just simply copy a view of those into the dashboard rather than building these ones from scratch. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is start adding some columns so that we can actually see some of these databases side by side. So I'm going to place my cursor here and hit enter, and we're going to type in /2C like this, and we're going to grab this 2 columns block. So I'm going to start by grabbing the to-do list database here by grabbing the 6 dots. I'm actually going to place this in the second column here. So make sure you look for this blue line that shows that you're in the second column, and I'm going to drop it in there. I'm then going to grab the goals database and place it just underneath like that. Now this section here is actually going to be the sidebar where we're going to add the link, so it doesn't need to take up half of the page. So I'm just going to grab this bar in the middle and just pull it over so that we just have a smaller amount of space here, and that gives more space to these databases. Now I actually want the habit tracker to display next to the to-do list. We actually want to add 2 more columns up here. So what I'm going to do is make a space up here at the top. Now Notion won't let you make a space up here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this little plus here, which is going to add a space here, but I actually want this space to be above this database way. So if I grab this block with the 6 dots, I'm just going to move it there. So we now have a space up here, and I'm going to type in again /2c to grab 2 columns. So we've now placed 2 columns inside of this column here. So firstly, I'm going to grab this to-do list and place it in the first column. So again, make sure you're looking out for this blue line that shows you which column you're in. I'm going to drop that there, and then we can place our habit tracker in this space here. So if I just scroll down to grab it with the 6 dots, and I'm going to place it here in this second column. So you can really play around with the sizing if you want. I think I'm going to make it a little bit smaller like that. So next what we're going to do is start adding our links into this column over here. So I'm going to place my cursor in here, and we're going to type in /callout to grab one of those callout blocks. Now this one I'm going to name daily, and this is where we're going to list all of our daily Notion pages that we use all the time, every single day, so they display up here at the top and we can easily navigate between them. So I'm actually just going to highlight this and make it bold, and let's also just change this icon as well. I think we're going to go with a sun icon like that. Then just here underneath the block, we're going to start grabbing the links that we want to add inside this block. So you're going to type the @ symbol like this and just start typing the page that you want to find. So let's say that I want to find my to-do list page because I use that every single day. So I'm just going to type it, and when you see it appear, you can just click on it and it's going to add a link to that page. So when you click this link, it's going to take you over to that page. I'm going to hit enter, and let's find another one. So the next one is going to be a habit tracker. That's something I would use every single day. And once you found the one that you want, you can click on it, and again, it's going to add that link. So let's just add 1 or 2 more. Okay, so I've grabbed the 3 links that I want to add into this block. Feel free to add as many or as few as you want. And once you've got them all here, you simply just want to highlight all 3 of them like this, grab them by the 6 dots and just drop them inside this block. I'm then just going to add a separator here like we did with the other ones. So this is what it will look like. So now we're going to create a couple more of these for different types of links. So I'm going to click on the 6 dots here, and we're just going to duplicate this block. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete the links that we have, because we're obviously going to add different links inside this one, and I'm going to change the name of this to personal. And we're also just going to bold it as well, and you can also change the icon. Let's just go with a person outline like this. So this is where we're going to add all of our personal Notion pages. So it might be things like a finance tracker, a goals page, workouts, anything like that. So I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to type the @ symbol and find all the pages that I want. And again, once I've got them, I'm just going to grab them all and pop them into this block here. Now you can make as many of these blocks as you need. So I think for me, I'm going to add one more for work. So if you have any pages relating to your work or your business, you can add another block there, or if you're a student, you might want to add one for study. It's really up to you. You might even want to add an extra one for miscellaneous. Just make as many of these as you like. So this is what the sidebar with all the links will now look like. Next, we're going to add those quick action buttons that were placed up here at the top. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start creating them down here, and then we can move them afterwards. So I'm going to type in /button to grab a button block, and then you first want to start by giving it a name. Now the buttons are going to be completely down to you, whatever buttons you think would be useful. The idea is that if an idea or a note or something pops into your head that you want to quickly record, you can simply click the button and it will be added to the appropriate database. Now for me, I'm going to start by adding a new task button. So if I want to add a new task to our to-do list, I can simply click the button to record the information. So we're going to call this button add new task. So that is the words that are going to display on the button. And you can also add an icon here if you like. I think for this one, we're going to add a check mark icon, but I think we're going to color code these as well. So let's set this to green and add the check mark icon. So this is what the button will now look like. So now we need to tell the button what it should do once it is clicked. So I'm going to click on this add action button here. And what we want to select here is add page to. So in this case, once I click the button, I actually want to add a page to the to-do list database with the name of the task that has just popped into my head. So we're going to select add page to. Then it's going to ask you to select the database that you want to add the page to. So I'm going to click on here, and we're going to add the to-do list database. Now if you want to pre-fill out any of the properties, then you can do so, but I'm going to leave these blank because it's really going to depend on what the task is at the time. The other thing that we need to do is we actually want the page to open up so that we can actually record that information when we click the button. So I'm going to add one other step, and it's going to be to open the page. Now luckily Notion does allow you to open the new page that you've added. So if you click on here, it will allow you to open up the page that you've added when you've clicked this button. And I actually want this to open as a side peek. So instead of popping up in the center, it will just pop up at the side. So that is all we need to do. So I'm then going to click done, and let's just check that the button works. So when I click the button, a new page is going to open, and I can simply type in the name of the task. And if I want, I can also set the due date. Let's just set it as tomorrow, and the priority as well. And that will now have been added to the database. So if I just go on all tasks, as you can see, here is that task I've just added. So feel free to add as many buttons as you like. I'm also going to add one to quickly add a goal to the goals database. So try and think of as many buttons as you can that make sense for you. So for me, I have a database where I record all of my ideas for YouTube videos. So if I randomly just come up with a new idea in the middle of the day, I just click the button and it will automatically add that to my database. So I don't have to be searching through all of my different links here in the sidebar to find the appropriate page. I can just click the button. It can be on a completely different page to the database that it's adding a page to. It really doesn't matter. So just add as many of these as you like. Okay, so these are the buttons that I've added. So this one will add a new goal to the goals database. This one will add a new journal entry to my journal, which actually sits on a different page. And this one will add a new video idea to my video ideas database. So what I want to do is I actually want to move these buttons. So I want them to display here above the to-do list and habit tracker database. So that way they're right at the top, easy for me to see and use. So what we want to do is firstly just make a bit of space here above the to-do list and habit tracker. So I'm going to do that trick that we did earlier where I'm just going to grab a random empty block like this. I'm going to drag it up here and we're going to place it above the to-do list. Now you want to make sure you look for this line that goes all the way across to the other side of the habit tracker and not this one that just covers the top of the to-do list. So go with this one that goes all the way across. And now what I want to do is, because I have 4 buttons, I'm going to need 4 columns here to place one in each column so that they're equally spaced out. So I'm now going to type /4C. So I'm going to grab this 4 columns block. Now if you have say 5 buttons, you might want to grab the 5 column block. If you've got 3, grab 3 columns, but for me I've got 4 buttons, so I've gone for 4. And then I'm simply just going to drag each one and drag it into each of the columns. So again, make sure you're looking for the blue lines to show that you're in one of the 4 columns rather than say this one, which is a different column. So I'm going to go with this one and I'm just going to place each of these buttons one in each column like this. Now sometimes it adds a bit of extra space, so it looks like I've added that on the wrong line. So I'm just going to delete any of these spaces so that we don't have any spare space like this. So that is the majority of the dashboard all set up. The one other thing that I did have on the example was a weather widget down here in the sidebar. So I'm going to show you quickly how you can grab a weather widget that is customized to the town or city that you live in. So you can create the weather widget on indefy.co. So if you want to navigate over to this website, you just need to create an account, but it is completely free. So once you've either logged in or created an account on Indefy, you just want to scroll down and look for the weather widget here. It's under volume 1 and click on create widget, and you can then give it a title. So I'm just going to call it weather and click continue. So it's then going to bring you over to the editor. So it will automatically come up with San Francisco. So if you happen to live in San Francisco, that's great. You can just grab the weather widget as it is. But if you don't live in San Francisco, then you want to just click up here and search for your location. So let's just type in London as an example, and I'm going to select London, England, and that's going to then update on the widget. Now there are a few different things that you can play around with here. So you can change the units if you prefer. As I'm from the UK, I'm going to go with Celsius because that's what we use. So this makes a bit more sense to me. And you can also change the number of days as well if you want. Now there are a few other options that you can play around with here. You can add a background color if you like, but I'm just going to leave all of the options as they are. So this is what the weather widget will look like, and you can then just click here to copy this link at the bottom to the widget. Then back over in Notion, just here at the bottom of our sidebar, I'm simply just going to paste in that link, and then you want to click on this create embed option once you've done that, and that's going to now embed that in as a widget. Now because we've placed it in the sidebar, it's going to display long ways like this, but if you wanted to place it elsewhere, for example in this block here, you could display it sideways. So I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But as we've got it in the sidebar, what I'm going to do is just pull it down like this, and I think if I put it here, it's going to go a little bit bigger. So I think I'm happy with that. So that is how it would display. But if you wanted it to be horizontal rather than vertical like this, you could grab it and move it over here, for example. And as you can see, it will now display this way. You can make it a bit smaller as well. So it's really up to you on how you want it to display. I think I'm just going to keep it over here in the sidebar for me. Okay, so that is it. That is our dashboard all set up. If you liked the dashboard that we built in this video, then you'll absolutely love my ultimate second brain template, which is a way more advanced version with a ton of additional features. You can grab this template over on my store. I'll leave a link in the description box below. And if you found the video useful, then don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel as I post new Notion tutorials every single week.